careless as the day you sailed with the Skull Rock podcast. Proceed at your own risk and mark well me words, ladies. Dead men tell no tale.
Welcome to Skull Rock Podcast, the show about all things Disney and pop culture. Every week we take you behind the scenes of some of your favorite Disney films, theme park attractions, performances, books, music, as well as what's streaming and what's playing in the theaters, and what is happening in this universe of entertainment. I'm Aljon Go, longtime Disney, Marvel, Star Wars, and musician, Star Wars fan, I should say. And you can contact me, Aljon, A-L-J-O-N, at skullrockpodcast.com.
And I'm Dave Bossert, artist, filmmaker, and author. Welcome to the Skull Rock Podcast. If you love Disney and pop culture, please subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. You can also like and follow us on Facebook, X, Blue Sky, Instagram, LinkedIn, and on the Skull Rock YouTube channel. You can also email me at dave@skullrockpodcast.com. Aljon, it is bitterly cold.
Yes.
My gosh.
It seems like we have Jack Frost just won't go away, right?
It's unbelievable, and it's Groundhog Day to boot. When this show drops, it'll be Groundhog Day, and we'll find out if Punxsutawney Phil is going to predict more winter, which at this point, I believe we are going to have more winter. Is
it still the original Punxsutawney Phil, or did Punxsutawney Phil have like a offspring heir or whatever? Because I seemingly remember them saying that this is a new Punxsutawney Phil. I don't know.
Punxsutawney Phil, I think this is probably Punxsutawney Phil like 42.
42. You know? My gosh. I don't know what the lifespan is of groundhogs. So anyway.
Well, wherever our friends and listeners are, I'm sure, because such a big swath of the country is just frigid, yes. Yeah. And I was out in Los Angeles basking in some of the Southern California good weather. It was in the low 70s. And by the way, I think the next week or so, it's going to be in the 80s out there.
Yeah. I can't believe it. I just can't believe it. Well, I mean, good for LA, good for California, not good for us. I mean, heck, man, some of Tennessee, Middle Tennessee still has their power out a week later from
crazy.
This. So, I mean, I didn't even, I went into the office the first time, and it's like it was a ghost town. Everybody was working remotely, on Friday. So I was like, why did it even show up? So
it's crazy. Total craziness.
Well, we have a big show, Dave. This is going to be an unprecedented part 4 of Ed Nowak as he spills the beans about his work as former deputy general counsel for the Walt Disney Company. I mean, what a great time you spent with him and the stories that he's telling.
I know. I really like this interview from the standpoint, not only do I like Ed and he's a friend, but also the fact that this is another facet of the Disney universe that a lot of people don't think about, but it contributes to the cost of doing business. It contributes to what the gate prices are to get into the parks, because there's all kinds of craziness that goes on behind the scenes with big multinational companies like Disney.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. And just some of the conversation we've been having with Ed sort of shines a little bit of a light on some of this craziness. I mean, the swans made out of liver, and people is claiming that, the swan on top of the Swan Hotel was ripped off from them because of it. I mean, it's just like, it's absolutely craziness what goes on out there, and I think that this is something that the fans should be aware of.
Yeah, 100%. And you see, this is all reflected in your ticket price, gang. It really is.
It absolutely is.
But it's really good stuff. Well, we're going to delve into that here in just a little bit, but let's go into something we've got the mailbag.
Skull Rock Podcast answers your email.
Well, it's been a couple weeks since we answered some emails, so we've got some comments, don't we, Dave?
We do. We got an email from Bobby in Ohio, And he writes, "Hello, Dave and Aljon. I want to send another email now that I'm back in Ohio after completing my Disney college program. I really appreciated having the podcast to listen to these past few months. And as always, thank you for all the hard work that goes into it. I especially enjoyed the recent interview with Ed Nowak. Hearing more about his career with Disney has been fascinating, particularly discussion around safety and guest satisfaction in the parks this past week. As a former cast member, I can definitely see the training around safety and guest recovery is incredibly thorough and emphasized to be the utmost importance. My overall experience with the company was very positive. I had opportunities to network with amazing individuals, attend special sessions with people such as Tony Baxter and Roy P. Disney, and connect with creative departments like publishing, character art, consumer products. I experienced so much that I can't fill it all into or fit it all into one message, but I'd love to share more about my time as a cast member and my college program experience in general. I look forward to seeing you again at the Animation Y'all Festival soon. That's
Wow,
right, Aljon. We're going to be in Nashville.
I can't believe
We're
it.
going to be eating some barbecue and meeting Skull Rock fan listener, for the Skull Rock podcast listeners.
Yeah.
So he says, keep up the great work. I wish you all the best, Bobby in Ohio. Thank you, Bobby. Appreciate
Yeah.
you listening to the show. And yes, he mentioned that Animation Y'all. It's a couple months away, Aljon.
Yeah, I can't believe it. I hope that the snow clears by that time.
Yeah, really. I hope so too. I hope that we don't have an Arctic vortex coming down from the North Pole.
Please.
It's just crazy. I hope it warms up a little bit.
Yeah, I do too. So, hey, that's great stuff. I'm glad that we've had a chance to hang out with Bobby, and yeah, absolutely. Bobby is, I guess, an artist in his own right. So we can't wait to see Bobby again and hang out at Animation Y'all, which is happening in a few weeks. So
Yeah, we're gonna be talking
yeah.
about it's April 10th to the 12th,
hmm
and the Skull Rock podcast is going to have a presence at the. In fact, we're one of the sponsors.
Yeah, how about that? Now that's super cool, man. So definitely looking forward to that. Now, Dave, we got a little comment. We talked a little bit in a couple of weeks ago about Kathleen Kennedy stepping down, retiring from Lucasfilm. We're talking about the story about you being introduced to Kathleen Kennedy in the elevator with Bob Iger.
Oh, when I stepped out of the elevator, at the rotunda.
Yeah, and you found her to be a very pleasant person, Dave.
Listen, I've only met her briefly. She was very pleasant to me.
Yeah, it says, and then Jeff in the Dianchi 8279 says, I don't subscribe to the flowery language when it comes to these Hollywood types, especially not after these past 15 or so years. She may have been a pleasant person in public, a talented protege under the guidance of better creators throughout the years, but she's proven herself to be a terrible creative lead in such a short amount of time. She destroyed 2 classic American franchises in a decade's time, spitting on the legacy of George established Star Wars prior to the Disney acquisition that was a juggernaut built up from the movies, TV shows, comics, books, board games, video games, and a cornucopia of toys. The momentum for many of these projects has died out in a miserable fashion. Hasbro hesitates to do much outside of the Black series of figures. The High Republic went out with a whimper. LucasArts produced so many games prior to their closure, and the momentum hasn't been matched since. The movies and shows break lore and destroy the legacies of beloved characters without hesitation. If anything can be credited to Kennedy, it's her unintended invigoration of a new generation of creators who seek to tell their own stories without emulating her many displays of incompetence. Forgive me for my scathing review, but my honest perspectives are invaluable.
Well, look, Aljon, everybody has an opinion, you're never going to satisfy everyone.
Yeah.
I think you and I have talked over the years that the Star Wars fan base is a unique group of people that are very,
Yes.
very passionate
Yes.
and very vocal when things are done that they don't like. So look, that's one person's opinion. I think that the fact that Disney purchased the Star Wars franchise from George Lucas was a good place for it to have a home. I think that the Star Wars universe, if it's handled properly in the coming years, is going to expand. It may not expand to the liking of some of the hardcore fans, but
Mhm.
it's going to broaden out so that it has a much larger reach, which is what they should be doing, I think. It's not
Yeah.
just for a narrow fan base. The other thing that I would point out here is that with any of these franchises, there is a very broad spectrum of passionate fans,
Mhm.
and you're never going to satisfy them all. So,
Well, this is true. This
yeah.
is true. Oh, and I agree. I have said on this show that I was a fan of Disney, like you, acquiring Star Wars. I had hoped for much better because I believe the track record for Star Wars is spotty. We want all of them to be bangers, y'all. We want all of them to be bangers. We want out of the gate just amazing stuff. And I wish the movies would have done better, wish the creative thing. But I will tell you that there are really some high spots of Disney Star Wars, and I am behind it. Rogue One being one of them. A lot of people saying Andor. I am a big fan of what they did with Skeleton Crew. I really like that show a lot. And so, I wish there was more, but I think that Mandalorian season 1, maybe season 2, but definitely season 1 is just a banger season. So not all of it has been bad, but you can be critical of it. I can be critical of a lot of the franchises Disney and Marvel and others have put out as well. But I can tell you that what has happened for Star Wars, especially over the past 5 years under the pandemic and Bob Chapek, certainly did not help things because once again, you know, the theater business, the entertainment business was at such a rocky point that you almost have to give Hollywood a pass for the, 2, 3 years that we were going through the pandemic, the strikes, and, other things like that, that were continually just beating down on what Hollywood was able to produce. And I think that there was a lot of issues and uncertainty going on. So I think now on the other side of the pandemic and all the strikes, we're going to see a course correction, and not just, as you said, Dave, just appealing to a wide variety of fans, but the widest variety of fans.
Mhm.
I feel like as a steward, as a shepherd, like Dave, and I'm going to ask you this question, but if I am the head of a creative force such as Disney, I'm going to make it a point to learn from the fans and give the fans a lot of what they want because they will pay the bills. And then as we look to branch out, as a tree trunk is remaining strong, and we look for vertical movement and growth, I'm going to try to attract those others, but I'm going to try to maintain, like, I'm going to make our core fans happy again, give them what they want in a big way, super serve our fans so that we can generate the money to fund outside projects to increase vertically. Now, tell me, Dave, if you're in the situation, do you agree with that, or do you have a different way of looking at it?
No, look, here's what it boils down to, Aljon. It doesn't matter what I think, you think, or this individual who wrote his opinion, right? What matters is the box office. That's
Mhm.
all that's driving this, okay? So when you have successful films like Rogue One and films like that that go out and do over $1 billion, that's going to be the driving force because that is signaling to the people running the company that the fans like this. This is a hit. This is what they want. Okay. And if it doesn't do well, it gets canceled. They don't make another one of it. They change course. And that's really what it boils down to. This is a business. Okay. And there is a certain group of fans out there that just want to have the purest possible interpretation of something for their satisfaction. And if you go beyond that, they don't think it's valid. They don't want to have a large group of people around it. They want it for themselves, you know? And I just disagree with that. I think the Walt Disney Company is a global entertainment juggernaut, okay? And it is there to appeal to the widest audience that they can for their various franchises, you know? And that's it. That's the at the end of the day, that's what matters. Okay? And I sit there and I look, I'm not a hardcore Star Wars fan, you know that, right? But I loved Andor. I thought it was a very well done show. I liked Rogue One. I think that The Mandalorian was a terrific first season. I think the second season was, not as good as the first season, but I still enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to the Mandalorian and Grogu film that's coming out.
Yeah.
So anyway, look, the bottom line is that on any of this stuff, Aljon, you're going to get 100 different viewpoints, or more, right? From the fans. And I think at the end of the day, it has to do with the success at the box office or in the ratings. End of conversation.
Yeah, 100.
And I still stand by the comments I made that Kathleen Kennedy was very nice.
I agree.
And by the way,
sure.
by the way, if you look at Kathleen Kennedy's career, she's married to Frank Marshall. She and Frank Marshall and Steven Spielberg started Amblin Entertainment.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yes. I understand that. I think she, once again, is very, very accomplished. But I too am hoping that Lucasfilm can put the emphasis on quality. And I will also say that I've seen the stuff that's been put out there over the years. Star Wars has a great canon, has a great bunch of stories in novels and comics, which I'm a big fan of, and different things, video games. That was great. And hopefully they can get back to that and really giving people what they want. But at the end of the day, people vote with their wallet.
That's right.
And so hopefully the changes that they're making to the parks to promote the Grogu movie with Mandalorian and upcoming projects is great. I can only hope that it goes back to what I love about Star Wars, which is not being a gatekeeper, but making it for everybody.
Yeah. And by the way, there is just so much happening out there. I don't understand why they don't just build a Star Wars theme park.
You've been a proponent of that for many years now, Dave, and I would tend to agree with you. I feel
I mean, you could put that anywhere you want, but I mean, look, Disney has a park in Southern California. They have a park in Orlando. Why don't you go and put a Star Wars park in the middle of Texas?
I know, right?
And seriously, I mean, you could buy up plenty of land and put up a Star Wars themed, or you could even do a dual park, Star Wars and Marvel.
There you go.
There's your two gates.
There's your two extra gates right there. Do what you can and bring all the universes together in one big mighty park. Man, I would be there for it. Who knows? They probably don't want to cannibalize their own parks, especially after their expansion. But I tell you what they do need to do is they need to go ahead and put those big e-ticket rides in there. They need to do something huge.
Aljon, I don't think they're going to cannibalize, the Walt Disney World or Disneyland if you build a Star Wars. I mean, that's a completely different fan base.
Yeah, I guess so.
It really is,
Look, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here. I'm all for it. Build a new park, please, so I can go take my kids to the new Star Wars land. Hey, what kind of stuff do you want us to talk about? Or what kind of feedback? Do you have any more scathing reviews on what Dave's talking about? Feel free to email us or leave a comment on our YouTube page, and we'll delightfully read your comments. And by the way, how was my acting, Dave? Did you like that dramatic read?
I loved it. I loved it. Fantastic.
I did it all for you. Send us those scathing reviews on YouTube and we'll read them out loud for an upcoming episode. All right. Am I out of order?
Pam, she wrote this great review of my poetry book.
I read a great review.
Your girlfriend got a great review.
Oh, that's my pick, too. Sorry.
Excuse me while I start the projector.
Skull Rock Podcast. Picks of the week.
And
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
love the sound of acetate going through a film projector.
I know you do. I know you do. Dave, what are we looking at this week for our picks of the week?
Well, Aljon, I was traveling most of last week. I was out on the West Coast in Los Angeles, but I still managed to see 28 years later, The Bone Temple. I thought this was really well done. It was sort of a great cap to the 28 years or the 28 series, because you had
I got it. It's 28 days later, 28 weeks later in
right.
2007, and then it's 28 years later that came out last year, and this year's now 28 years later, The Bone Temple.
Correct. So
Yes.
this is the fourth installment, and the Dr. Kelson, who's played by Ray Fiennes, makes a discovery that could change the world, while Spike's encounter with cult leader Jimmy Crystal becomes a nightmare he can't escape. So this is following several characters through the series. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought the production design was fantastic. I thought Jack O'Connell was just a psychopath. I mean, he was amazing. And by the way, Jack O'Connell is in a series that I watched on MGM, World War II series. I'm gonna the name of it'll come to me at some point, but just a great actor. The film has 92% on Rotten Tomatoes, 7.7 out of 10. This was a film, because of the production design, I felt like it played really well on a big screen. And I'd recommend you see it in a theater, especially if you're a fan of the entire series. 91% of the people that saw this movie liked it. So that says a lot. So there you go. 28 years later, The Bone Temple. I also, on the smaller screen, I watched the movie, Aljon, The Wrecking Crew, with
Huh?
Dave Bautista and Jason Momoa,
Yeah.
right? And
Yes.
the synopsis is estranged half-brothers Johnny and James reunite after their father's mysterious death. As they search for the truth, buried secrets reveal a conspiracy threatening to tear their family apart. This movie was just a yawn fest to me.
No.
There's some great action sequences in here. 47% of people that watched it liked it. It's got a 6.5 out of 10 on IMDb and 75% on Rotten Tomatoes. I love Dave Bautista. I really do. I think Dave Bautista is great. He's got great range. He's one of those few actors who crossed over from wrestling and is legit. He really does a good job. I really liked him in this movie. I thought Jason Momoa was a little bit more cartoonish, and the entire plot is just a rehash of other action movies. And again, some of the stunts are terrific, but even some of the visual effects are terrible in the film. So if you want to see it, you can see it on Prime if you want to. And again, there's some great action sequences, but as an overall movie, it's not that great. Now, on the small screen, I did watch a couple of episodes of a show called Bookish, which is on PBS, Masterpiece Theater. Gabriel Book, the proprietor of an antiquarian bookstore, relies on his vast collection to unravel baffling cases. He nurtures a group of lovable yet troubled individuals, providing informal protection and guidance. Stars Mark Gatiss as Gabriel Book, Polly Walker as Trotty Book, Connor Finch as Jack, who works in the bookstore. Jolie Richardson is in it as well. 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, by the way. 84% of people who watched it liked the show. I think this is a really well done murder mystery show. It's a period piece, takes place like in the 90s after the war, and production value is off the charts. It's just beautifully made. I just enjoy watching this show, and I think the performances are fantastic. So check out Bookish, which is on PBS. And then, Aljon, I watched the last episode of season 2 of Landman. Deep in the heart of West Texas, roughnecks and wildcat billionaires try to get rich quick in the oil business as oil rigs begin to dominate the state. Crisis executive Tommy Norris tries to bring his company to the top during a fueling boom. Billy Bob Thornton is the lead in this series. He plays Tommy Norris. This is just a fantastic show. They added Sam Elliott for season 2. Along with Demi Moore and a few other characters. Really terrific. I'm looking forward to season 3. This is one of the best shows on television as far as I'm concerned. You can check it out on Paramount Plus. IMDb gives it 8.2%, Rotten Tomatoes 80%, which I think is low. This is a Taylor Sheridan show, and it's very enjoyable. Finally, I'm catching up on season 2 of The Night Manager with Tom Hiddleston.
Yeah.
Tom Hiddleston, Olivia Colman, Hugh Laurie, Tom Hollander, David Harwood, based on John le Carre's novel of the same name. The Night Manager is a crime drama following the work of a former British soldier, Jonathan Pine, who's played by Tom Hiddleston. Hotel night porter Pine is contracted by an intelligence operative who asks for his assistance to spy on international businessman Robert Roper, who is played by Hugh Laurie. The entrepreneur is believed to have forged a criminal alliance between the secret arms trade and the intelligence community, prompting the need for surveillance. Pine attempts to infiltrate Roper's inner circle by becoming a felon himself while keeping his mission a secret from his hotel colleagues and girlfriend. This is from BBC and BBC One. Rotten Tomatoes gives it 90%, IMDb 8 out of 10. 78% of people who watch the show like it. I love this show. Again, great production value, great cast. Night Manager season 2 is playing now, so check it out on Amazon Prime.
Nice.
That is what I was able to squeeze in, even though I was traveling.
I love it, Dave. You squeezed in so much. Well, I tell you, I'm gonna do something a little bit different this time. I'm going to pitch you something. Are you ready? I'm going to pitch you this. Okay.
Okay.
When hitman Angelo is hit with early onset Alzheimer's, his worlds collide, putting his family in danger. What do you think about that?
I don't know. It sounds like a Liam Neeson movie.
It does, doesn't it? Because it kind of is. And this is the premise for a new TV show on Hulu called Memory of a Killer. And it stars Patrick Dempsey outside of type, because Patrick Dempsey has been known to be one of the good guys in Hollywood. And very rarely does he play an asshole. But he is actually, he's really not. He's really not a jerk in this at all. He's a caring father. He's got a daughter, kind of looking out for his daughter as he kind of is marrying into this guy that has kind of an uncertain future. But the thing is, he's got a dual life. One, as a hardened hitman.
Okay.
And it caught me immediately when I first saw the pilot. You know, my wife is a huge Patrick Dempsey fan. Of course, it's the reason why I continue to watch Grey's Anatomy, unfortunately. But I say, okay, hun, I will appease you. I will sit down and watch this show with you. And I was hooked because they had a scene where he goes in and goes John Wick on this mafia type or Yakuza type in the Japanese restaurant or whatever, and just totally just does the close in bathroom scene. It's always in the bathroom, right? Super tight. They go in and he just John Wicks everybody and just gets out of there. And you're like, oh man, this guy's a badass. This is awesome. And then you don't realize what's happening to him. He's undergoing this early onset of Alzheimer's. So now his daughter is in harm's way because he's slowly forgetting things, and he's bringing his secondary life as a hitman into his personal life, which is completely like, I'm a door-to-door salesman. You know, I am doing this, that, and the other. I'm traveling, blah, blah, blah. Of course he's traveling. And then his daughter gets shot. And unbelievably, you find out that his wife was murdered. And was it really a setup? Was she really murdered, or was this because he just forgot something and a hitman ended up just taking her out? Right? I mean, these things start happening to him. It's intriguing. I love the premise. I think it's great. And I think it's so far wonderfully executed. A 7 out of 10 on IMDb. And I will agree with that rating. I look forward to seeing more. Patrick Dempsey, looking good in his new show. It's created by Ed Whitmore, and looks like there's a lot of great cast people there, a lot of people I'm unfamiliar with. Nonetheless, I think they're doing a great job. So,
Awesome.
kudos. Here's another one, Dave. I'm going to pitch this to you. Let me know if you like it. Dave, a couple's vacation at a secluded estate is upended when they're forced to share the mansion with a mysterious couple. A dream getaway spirals into a nightmarish maze of sex, lies, and manipulation, triggering a battle for survival. What do you think?
I don't
Is this
know
something
what
you'd
to
watch?
think.
Would you watch that?
I would watch it,
You would?
actually.
Okay, it's called Bone Lake.
Okay.
Do you like this new format? I'm just trying to pitch you these things. If you buy in,
Is this on Netflix?
This right here is on Netflix. So Bone Lake is a dark comedy, erotic thriller about a couple who just goes on, gets his Airbnb, a nice mansion. He's expecting to like pop the question in this romantic getaway. Come to find out, it was a setup. This couple was laying in wait, researching this couple, and hunts them down and tries to kill them and take everything. This is not their first rodeo. No, oh no. They own this mansion and they've been hunting people and killing them on their own property for sport. And it's a weird twist. It's very, very kind of crazy. I will say this starts off as a little bit of a snooze fest. A lot of things happen in order to set up why you should care about this couple, and the uneasiness is kind of thrown in there. And then things start ratcheting up toward the end of the second act. And then the third act, it goes all bonkers. Absolutely just bonkers. And that's where you're like, because I almost gave up on this movie about 30 minutes in. I'm like, I don't know if I'm really into this. But luckily for me, I sat down for another 10 minutes and it finally started coming into itself. So of course, people haven't been kind to this film. 5.6 on IMDb. I will give it a strong 6. So while it's not bad, it will get some getting into because of the first part of the movie out of the 3 acts is okay. But it is interesting with a very young cast. So please check it out if you can, if you're into it.
All right.
The ending's very interesting too. I did also watch Disneyland Handcrafted. So
Good.
Disneyland,
What'd you think?
so Disneyland Handcrafted does not break new ground. And I was hoping it would. And when I say break ground, this is about the groundbreaking, if you will, of Disneyland having been kind of born out of this idea of Walt Disney getting in and with his team and really breaking ground on Disneyland, and how much effort it took all up in to the very end of the day where it opened. And the footage is great. I believe it's been remastered. There's a lot of audio that's been put in as voiceover as they're building the park, a lot of time lapse, a lot of archival Walt Disney interviews talking about Disneyland as he checks in with the Disney show, on a weekly basis during that era.
Is this like some new stuff you've seen, or is this a lot of stuff you've seen before?
A lot of stuff I've seen before, but then again, I am also like you, Dave. I mean, well, you are the Disney historian here, but I will say I've seen a lot of this footage before, but it's clean. It looks clean. It looks pristine. They've done a really good job of cleaning it up. The audio's really well done. It's put together. As you said earlier and alluded to, is it sanitized? Yes. I would have loved to see more of the frantic nature of them trying to get the park open in time, where I didn't feel that franticness, that type of the clock is ticking down, because some people have made it a point to put those narratives out there. And I like that, because it was kind of like flying by the seat of my pants here. The ingenuity, the stuff that makes a park is kind of thrown in there because there is a focus on Imagineering. And it is amazing to see the Columbia being built and going down the highway and these type of things. The Ferris, not the Ferris wheel, but the merry-go-round going in, and like a bunch of different things going into the park, which I love. And seeing the time-lapse footage is amazing. And to me, it's just a feat of human ingenuity, about fortitude, about stick-to-itiveness, whatever you want to call it, grit, but I really wanted to see more of the manic side and about how they were flying by the seat of their pants to make it happen. Something like this in the timeline that they wanted to get it done, what Walt wanted to get done, is so aggressive. I don't think it could ever be replicated. And Dave, you can tell me that if that's the truth or not, but I just feel like they accomplished so much. And to see the park kind of open up and breathe a sigh of relief is great.
Look,
I just,
look,
yeah.
you know, I haven't seen it yet. I am going to watch it. But the thing I would say is that when, you know, everything I know about how Disneyland came to be is Walt wanting to do, he had his own vision for what he wanted in an amusement park, right? And he went to, you know, consultants and people in the amusement trade, and you know, they were telling him that he should have, you know, a midway with rigged games, and that's where he's going to make a lot of money. And see, these were the things that Walt didn't want, right? He wanted to create something different, so he was inventing this as he was going along. And when you talk about Imagineers, there was no Imagineers back then, you know.
Mhm.
He was pulling together artists he had worked with on animated films that he saw different things in, to help make this dream of his come true, right? And so the bottom line is that he was marching to his own drummer, and he filtered out all the naysayers.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until opening day that he knew that he did something good, you know, because he put it all on the line. You know, he believed in it, but a lot of people around him were like, I don't know about this, you know?
He had clear and decisive vision. He
Yeah,
brought in these luminaries and pick and chose what would serve his narrative, and he gambled big and it worked out great. You know, but once again, that's, you know, he believed in family entertainment. He believed in a place where the family can get together and enjoy time and amuse themselves in a very, you know, very well curated place. And I love the thought that goes behind it. I feel like this was kind of a very, I would say, medium tempo, kind of not groundbreaking, but a good look into what was, you know, what was going behind the scenes, but not necessarily pulled back the curtain enough for me to really go back and delve into it more. I think Leslie I. Works is a great documentarian, and I think for what she did, I think it was great, and I think it'll celebrate Disneyland's 70th anniversary. Okay, you know,
absolutely. Absolutely.
so so I think that that's the takeaway here. But I will say it's always great to see Walt Disney and remastered and sounding great and looking great. And so, as an addendum to this, you can check out Disney Parks blog because they do have a bunch of great pictures that they have put in a very nice, organized fashion. So please check that out as well. Speaking of documentary, I'm a big fan of WWE, Dave. If you didn't know, I'm a big wrestling fan. But I have recently checked out WWE's Unreal series, which pulls the curtain back on the creative side of what the WWE does, their storyline. So behind the scenes with the superstars and staff from Raw to WrestleMania as they create wrestling's grandest events. Dave, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of pulling back the curtain. I still want to believe. When I watch the TV, I don't want to know how the sausage is made. I just want to enjoy this mindless kind of male soap opera, and just and say like, look, I can appreciate what kind of stories they're telling in a physical way in this theater in the round type of entertainment that has been around for hundreds of years, like gladiators in a coliseum. They go in, it's predetermined outcomes, it's choreography, it's athleticism, it's high drama with high stakes and larger than life characters, just like superhero TV shows and movies. And I'm here for it, but I don't want to see how it's being made.
I don't blame you. The one thing I would ask you though is like the difference between WWE and UFC
Uh-huh.
or UCF. What is it? The
Oh, yeah,
Ultimate.
yeah, UFC Ultimate Fighting Championships. Yeah.
Yeah. So Ultimate Fight, that's cage fighting. You
Yes.
know, they go into the round cage and
Yes.
winner takes all.
The octagon, Dave. It's the octagon.
The octagon, but winner takes all, right?
Where it takes,
Yeah,
yes.
there's nothing fixed about that. Whereas with WWE, it's more entertainment. It's
Yes.
acrobatic entertainment.
Yes, it's choreographed fighting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, they learn how to take a fall. They do these judo falls. They fall on their back and they jump off high ladders and things of that nature as high risk acrobatic art. And it is great. But yeah, I don't want to see the storylines and say, hey, Dave, you're going to be going in as the manager, and then later on you're going to turn heel and become a bad guy by taking your briefcase and then whapping this guy in the back of the head.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're the bad guy. And then you're going to take this suitcase and you're going to run off in the distance. And then you'll be all,
they're essentially performers. That's all it
they
boils
are
down to.
performers. They are performers, but I don't want to see it backstage. So for some people, it'll going to be great, but I'm not a big fan of how it, backstage and showing that section of it, the creative process. I like to know more about the people, but not about the process. So thumbs down for me on WWE Unreal.
Okay.
What have you been watching? Let us know, and maybe we'll review it in an upcoming section of the Skull Rock podcast.
Skull Rock Podcast. This week in Disney and pop culture.
All right, Dave, the most watched theatrical movies, you have Mercy. Mercy's weekend gross $10 million. Avatar still hanging in there. I forgot how many weeks Fire and Ash has been around, but it's been around quite a bit, Dave. Raking in $6 million for an overall of $377 million domestically. And that's huge. Dave, that's absolutely huge.
Yeah, but I mean, it's well over $1 billion worldwide. Yeah.
Yes, well over $1 billion worldwide. That's the big takeaway here on that. Zootopia 2 doing great. The Housemaid still hangs in there. It's made a lot more money than I thought it was going to be make over $115 million. Bone Temple, 28 years later, is doing great. Tier number 5. Return to Silent Hill, Marty Supreme, Lord of the Rings, Hamnet, and Primate round out the top 10 films. So not too shabby in here. And then Stranger Things is still the top streaming series next to Landman, but man, Stranger Things is still a juggernaut on Netflix with hundreds of millions of minutes being streamed, Dave. I mean, it's just a juggernaut that won't go away. So
yeah, I have to sit down and binge watch that.
Yes, you do. I can't wait to get your take on it. A couple really quick notes here, Dave. It's time to raise the curtain on the Muppet Show. Have you seen the trailer for the new Muppet Show, Dave?
No, I have not.
So it is out. Maya Randolph is announced as the guest star. It's a highly anticipated return of the Muppets. Sabrina Carpenter will be starring. Executive produced by Seth Rogen, premiering February 4th on Disney Plus and ABC. It's kind of a return to form for the Muppet Show. I like this format. Don't screw it up. Please don't screw it up. You bring back the Muppets only to get their Muppets cut in half, every single time. It's like the Mayhem TV show with the Electric Mayhem Band. It was doing great and then not so good. I don't know why that didn't go in for another season, but I like the idea of bringing back the Muppet Show. I will tell you, I'm not a fan of Seth Rogen. I just don't know I guess we'll find out if he has what it takes to bring together the Muppets in the way I believe the Muppets should be presented, because I really, and maybe it's just me, Dave, but I'm just a fan of the old school Muppet Show, the variety show. And maybe that format, there's a reason why that format's dead, but I'm hoping that it can be revived, and the Muppets being a viral sensation as they had been for over the past 20 years, 15, 20 years on the internet, I'm hoping they can get some of that magic and put it back into the show, because I'm slowly introducing my kids to the Muppet vignettes that they've had like 10, 15 years ago. And they're brilliant. What they did with the Muppets and trying to research the Muppets was great, 10, 15 years ago.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm still disappointed that they didn't give the Electric Mayhem Band season 2.
Yeah,
because I think they needed it. I think they could have ended the first season with a high-powered musical star coming on as a guest and set it up for season 2.
Mm-hmm.
But they do what they're going to do, and people pull the trigger too quickly. You gotta let some of these things gestate a little bit and build a little bit more.
Yeah, I was a fan of the Muppets as they brought it back, 10 years ago when the Muppets were really,
Yeah.
coming back with the film after film. It seems like every other year they were doing great, and they
Yeah, the
still had
Jason Segel film,
Jason
right?
Segel film was
Yeah.
great. Yeah. But once again, here we are, a special event directed by Alex Timbers, who serves as creative producer. Seth Rogen, Evan Goldberg, James Weaver, and Alex McAtee are executive producers. So it's great. All the regulars are going to be there. So light the lights. It's time for the Muppet Show tonight. Well, not tonight, but it will be there February 4th for a special event. And I think if it goes well, maybe we'll see more. Tron Ares, by the way, is now on Disney Plus. If we haven't mentioned it, you can check it out now. Dave, you saw Tron Ares?
I did. I enjoyed it. I saw it in the theaters. I think it was a film you should have seen in the theaters, but if it's on Disney Plus, go watch it on Disney Plus.
Absolutely. Percy Jackson and the Olympians returns for season 3 later this year on Disney Plus. This series seems to be taking off for Disney, and good for them. So check out all the episodes right now, season 1 and season 2. You can check it out and binge it on Disney Plus and Hulu. It's definitely on my list to watch for sure. And now we have here, if I can get this in here. Did I get this? Yes, here it is. Before we do that, Mariah Carey, Dave. Mariah Carey's expansive career from the 90s grunge album to becoming the Queen of Christmas celebrated Music Cares this weekend. She's a Person of the Year gala. People coming out to pay tribute to the amazing work of Mariah Carey, Jennifer Hudson, Charlie Puth, Kesha, Busta Rhymes, the Foo Fighters were among the wide-ranging artists who paid tribute to her. Dave, I have to say, Mariah is one of the, I guess, best pop singers around to this day. You have people like, Aretha Franklin that have really been around and that have made their name. Diana Ross, one of those names. But then you look at the modern era of the Whitney Houstons of the world, and Mariah Carey certainly belongs in that, the Celine Dion's of the world. Those are the top female singers in the genre today. And I'm glad that she's getting her flowers. So,
Good. Congratulations to her.
yeah, check that out. And I will say there was a very interesting performance by the Foo Fighters and Taylor Momsen. You might know Taylor Momsen from her band, and she's doing quite well, but she was the little girl in Jim Carrey's The Grinch. But she's a accomplished rocker, and they actually did some songs from Mariah Carey's first grunge album, which actually was put out, I guess, under a different moniker, Chick. 1995, before her debut record was out there, and it's actually quite good. It's very kind of Alanis Morissette like, and so they actually covered some of that, and I guess I would love to see that get an official release, because it would mean that she has a new genre. So I'd love that. So celebrate Mariah Carey, and I'm sure you'll see some footage online. And now, Jewelry Roll Call. Let's pay tribute to some of those actors and actresses who have passed this week. A beloved actress, Catherine O'Hara, loved Schitt's Creek and Home Alone star, dies at the age of 71.
Such a shock. Such a shock.
Absolutely. She was transported to the hospital in serious condition early Friday morning, and first responders were called to her LA home. She was a multi-award winning performer who spanned more than 5 decades, from SCTV and Home Alone to her Emma-winning turn as Maury Rose. She survived by her husband 33 years, Bob Welch, and her 2 sons. An extraordinary life and career. Everyone, including Macaulay Culkin, paid tribute to her. Dave, is a sad day indeed.
It really is. And by the way, we should mention she voiced Sally
Yes.
in Nightmare Before Christmas. She was in Tim Burton's Beetlejuice. Of course, Tim Burton made a statement about the loss of Catherine O'Hara because he's worked with her a number of times over the years. Just very sad to see somebody go this young. 71 to me is young.
Absolutely. It's a very sad state. I've got news for you. Nickelodeon star Kiana Underwood, known for All That and Little Bill, was found dead at the age of 33 after a hit and run accident. This happened recently while we were under this ice storm, so we didn't get a chance to cover this. She was only 33, Dave. She was reported, police responded to a 911 call in Brownsville neighborhood of Brooklyn, New York, and a preliminary investigation that a gray vehicle was traveling westbound and struck an unidentified female. I saw that. And she's saying severe trauma to the head and body. It is so sad, so young for this young actress at 33 years old.
It's reprehensible when somebody hits and kills somebody and takes off. They'll eventually get them. They're going to find them. It's only a matter of time.
You know, my childhood is filled with great, great memories of shows like Sanford and Son. And I really, really appreciated the humor that was in that show. And Devin Wilson, who played Lamont, which was Fred Sanford's son, dies at the age of 79. A guest stint on All in the Family paved way for his 6-season run on that legendary NBC sitcom. And of course, Sanford and Son, a perennial favorite. I love it. He died Friday of complications from cancer in his home in Palm Springs.
Yeah, he was a great foil for Fred Sanford, Red Fox, and just I remember the sitcom. It was hugely popular. It was a terrific show, a lot of laughs, and sad to see Demond Wilson go.
Absolutely. You know, he was on a lot of different shows, the Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour, the Brady Bunch, but really was Sanford and Sons that put him into the stratosphere in terms of his career. But he unfortunately walked off the set due to a contractual dispute back in 1974. And shortly after that, the show was canceled.
Well, no, that was Red Fox.
It was Red Fox.
Yeah, Red Fox was the one that walked off the set over a salary dispute.
That was it. That was it. Thanks, Dave, for that correction. But once again, I mean, you're right. It was really the two of them, that the foil, the back and forth, that really made that show. So rest in peace. Dave, I think that is all she wrote for the time being. Oh, I'm sorry. I've got one more, Dave. Wow. Valentino Giovanni, the legendary Italian fashion designer, dead at the age of 93. You know, when people walk the red carpet and say who they're wearing, they will usually say, oh, Valentino, I'm wearing Valentino. And it's just really sad state. But once again, what a long life.
Yeah, 93. That's what I'm talking about,
93.
Yeah.
Valentino red was recognized as a Pantone as the designers became synonymous with that color. It is something that I look into all the time. That is one of my favorite shades of red. As a guitar designer, I lean on that Pantone quite a bit. But it is, once again, just a sad state of affairs, and rest in peace. And we wish the best to their family and friends at this time for everyone that's passed. But here we are now, gang, at the main event. This is part 4 of our interview with Ed Nowak, former Deputy General Counsel for the Walt Disney Company, as he once again explores the legal backstage events that happen at the Disney Company. Sit back and relax and enjoy this interview right here on Skull Rock Podcast.
Let's do it.
Hey, let's chat.
Let's chat afterwards. Let's chat. And he said, let's chat again.
Skull Rock Podcast. Interview time.
Well, Aljon, we are back again for week 4 with our friend Ed Nowak, the former Deputy General Counsel of the Walt Disney Company. He's now retired. Ed, welcome back to the Skull Rock Podcast.
Happy to see you. Happy to be back.
Yes. And, last week we sort of did go off on a little tangent, I guess, talking about safety and also the lawsuits that pop up every time the company puts out an animated film, people claiming that they were ripped off or something. But I wanted to just jump in here and talk about some of the more wackier cases, and some of those seem to grow out of the theme park area. Am I right?
Probably the most novel ones come out of the parks because there's so much variety on the park floor and backstage as well. One you may remember is the woman who claimed, and I don't know whether I mean, some of these I don't remember the details precisely. I think she was being escorted backstage because of some problem on stage, but as she was being escorted to wherever she was going to be to talk about whatever had happened on the park floor. She saw some of the costume characters, I guess, on their breaks with their heads off. And her claim was emotional distress at having been exposed to the fact that, the animal characters didn't have real heads when they were off and she saw a human head. It was so disturbing. And I forget what
she was
asking
traumatized.
for. She was traumatized. It was emotional distress. And she pursued that. And that's another instance, as I was talking about last week. The company just didn't, no matter what people's hopes or expectations were, we just didn't roll over for nonsense.
Right.
Like
for the nonsense. Yeah. And that's what it is. It's nonsense.
So that was disposed of in some legal fashion. Then another one I know you're aware of is the woman who thought she had suffered some kind of injury by deep sea diving in the I forget whether it was still 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea or whether it had already become
the Living Seas.
Finding Nemo. No, this is the submarine ride where you're just below the surface of the water.
Yeah. But the other one I was thinking of was at at Epcot, the Living Seas, where the ride vehicle went into this elevator that took you hundreds of fathoms below the surface of the...
Well, yes, that was a similar claim, an attraction.
Well, tell us about...
Obviously, it's an illusion.
Yeah, but tell us about the sub ride one, because that one I'm not familiar with. I was familiar with the Living Seas one.
Well, I don't remember how the sub ride was described on the warning signs that were in use at the time. But, you get this little written spiel about the adventure you're about to undergo. It's telling you're in a submarine and you're going down to some depth. And when you look out the window, you're going to see things that you don't see because they're at the top, because they're more towards the bottom of the sea. And a writer took it overly seriously, figuring that, she's unprepared for a real deep dive and not recognizing that, the deep dive of the sub was, I don't know, what, a foot underneath
a couple of feet under the surface.
You were able to open the window and stick your hand up, it would come up over the surface of the water. And the Living Seas, which did have that descent, but like so many other, we're not giving anything away, a lot of what you see and feel is an illusion.
Of course it is. It's an experience, an immersive experience that makes you... We're trying to make guests think something's happening without it actually happening that way.
And the person, I think it was a woman in Seas, really did take it seriously and was very affected by that illusion.
She claimed that her eardrums burst.
Just from, what could that descent have been?
1,000 fathoms under the sea?
Well, in reality, what?
In reality, I think the ride vehicle lowered about 2 feet or 3 feet.
Is it 2 feet? Yeah,
I think it was like it lowers 2 feet, and when you're inside that elevator, the lights are racing by as if you're really descending quickly. And she filed a suit claiming that her eardrums burst.
Yeah, look, people think, Space Mountain goes faster than it actually does and other things but that's all part of the effectiveness of that's why the attractions are so effective, because they create a sensation that, is beyond what the reality is when you strip all the entertainment away.
It's a complete immersive experience. And I think that's wonderful. But, that's kind of the craziness of some of these things, because as I recall about that particular case, because I heard about it years and years ago, was that it actually went to court and they came in with the drawings for the attraction.
Yeah.
And as soon as they saw that it went down 2 feet, it was like, your eardrums
did
not burst.
Right.
Yeah, that was the end of it. They threw the whole thing out.
Interestingly, when Seas opened, I was there for an opening event. It may not have been opening day, but it was, they sent a bunch of us to, and my then boss, Joe Shapiro, the general counsel of the company, people are sitting at dinner, which was spread out in the attraction. And there's Joe in a diving suit inside of one of the tanks.
That's
And
awesome.
And he had a big photograph of that done, which he kept in his office for years.
Did he surprise everybody who was looking in?
Oh, it was a total surprise.
That's
You know,
awesome.
what's he doing in there? And his drums survived.
Okay.
He made there was no workers' comp claim or anything about Joe
awesome.
in the tank.
That is absolutely awesome. Now, there was another one that I alluded to
I was
last
about
week.
to bring that. I know you
yes.
teased, and it's maybe my all-time favorite because it's one that I was handling. I was still able to go to court with some frequency, even though I had the desk job in Burbank. And it was a lady whose business was the creation of sculptures for party purposes, weddings and large dinners. And so there would be these
not unlike
decorations.
I was going to say not unlike ice sculptures,
Right.
but they weren't made of ice.
No, hers were chopped liver, and that was her business apparently for decades. Someone who, as far as I know, the company never heard of. And I have this memory that she was actually located in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
But we ended up with a lawsuit by her in New York, which is why I was able to be in court on this one myself.
Because you're licensed to practice law in New York as well as California.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and we would try to group things that were happening in a New York courtroom around other things we might need to do in New York. So I could, efficiently spend some company time in New York and then, back to Burbank. Anyway, the listeners are undoubtedly familiar with the Walt Disney World Swan Hotel, which is one of that cluster of hotels that are not, Disney-owned hotels.
Right.
Remember Hotel Plaza came in, I think, sometime in the 70s, and, there was a Hilton, the Swan and the Dolphin were built by John Tishman, who had built the World Trade Center in New York. And everybody knows that on the top of the Swan and Dolphin are gigantic, what are they, like 10-story
I mean, they're huge swans, and the other one's huge dolphins. Yeah.
And so this lady who did the ice sculptures, on the head of her stationery, she had one of her sculptures in a black and white line rendering. It was a swan in silhouette, or a side view of a swan. And I suppose if you stand in a certain position in Walt Disney World and look at the swan, you will see a side view of the swan as opposed to a frontal view or the other side or the back. And so she brought a lawsuit contending that Disney, someone had scoped her out in wherever her headquarters were, which, as I say, I have a memory which could be wrong, was in Chicago, saw that she had the swan as maybe it was her leading piece, her chopped liver swan.
What she was most famous for.
Right. And that wouldn't that be a perfect thing to put on top of a hotel in Florida, which we did. And she did get a lawyer. This was somebody who got a lawyer. And the case went on for a while, and it was in federal court in Brooklyn.
Wow.
And I showed up for our hearing, and I can't remember whether the basis was that, and there were two basic ways of handling these things. One, we didn't belong in a New York court in the first place. If the problem was that the swan was in Florida, she brought the case in the wrong court. And if you could have it either dismissed or transferred, depending on what the judge wanted to do. The other was, as I said earlier, you just bring all the evidence of that you would ever have if you had a trial and say, here's the real story. Nobody's heard of this lady. We don't make chopped liver swans. It's some sort of more permanent structure on top of the hotel. And in any event, a swan looks pretty much like a swan. This wasn't like a character with character attributes that you'd have in a movie. I mean, this was just the side view of an animal.
A realistic view of a swan.
Yeah.
The basic shape of a swan.
And so after this case carried on for some time, I was able to present myself to the court, and Your Honor, here's where we stand on whichever way it was we were trying to dispose of the thing. And the judge said, well, of course, people are absolutely right. And he looked for him and he said, there's no way this is going to continue here, at least not in my court. And so I grant Disney's motion, whichever kind of motion we had made at the time.
But generally a motion to
It was
dismiss.
it was going to end the
Yeah.
Two things happened after that. I mean, all the while you're thinking, why am I? Here's this poor lady who makes chopped liver sculptures to sell to people for their parties, and why is she hung up on? I mean, she's going to make her next fortune because the hotel has a swan. And she came up to me when it was over and stuck her finger in my face and said, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. You and the whole company should be ashamed of you because you did this. You took my swan.
Wow.
You put that on, and she spun around. And then her lawyer came over to me and said, what can I do? I know she believed this thing. She's entitled to have a lawyer. I told her, this is not going to. So after some, agonizing long period of time, that one went away. And I just, having had my own personal attention to pay to it was one of the last times I could do that.
It's amazing to me that something like that would have gone on for as long as it did. And obviously you have to be able to put a dollar amount to that. I mean, it's probably a shocking number what the company had to spend to defend it.
Well, since we were doing this one, as I say, in the earlier years, this was sometime in the 90s as well, probably the mid-90s, and we were still able to do our own legal work. I mean, as things grew and grew, we had, of course, to rely on
outside
scores of outside law firms all around the country and all around the world. We got to work with, some of the best out there. Dan Petrocelli, Kerry Scanlon in Washington.
And the names you're mentioning, these are the stars in the legal world.
Yeah. I mean, when we needed them, we would call on them. And those would tend to be the more expensive.
Sure. Oh, I lost your sound.
Caliber. But we were...
You just cut out for a second.
Back?
Yeah, you're back.
Oh, good. Sorry. But we had been able to do a lot of our, so on that case where I'm the guy showing up in court, there's a cost involved, but it's not like you're paying a bill that somebody's sending to you. It's
right, because you're an employee.
It's absorbing legal time within the company. But,
right. Yeah.
And that plus travel from California to New York, we could do these things. When we thought we could do them efficiently, that's when we would do them. If we couldn't, then you'd take another route. But sure, as you said before, there's, it's a cost of doing business. And then our job is how to attack that as efficiently as possible and as cheaply as possible without sacrificing the kind of legal attention that we needed to make sure it got, because these things get on the record. it's a Disney person, a Disney lawyer doing the speaking, or it's a Disney written brief
Yeah.
or other kind of presentation to the court.
And that's all public record.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it had to look right and sound right and be consistent with the company's values and image.
Yeah.
And unless you're there, you
Yeah.
know, it's very hard to come in from the outside and, you know, on a 1 shot or even a 5 or 10 shot basis and get it. You know, it takes time to get that. You have to understand the business, as
Yeah.
we said before, in order to capture that and convey it to a judge, to a jury. It's sort of, you got to live there.
Yeah.
And part of our job was to really try to bring, when you needed the outside lawyers, bring them into that same mindset. And some could do it and some couldn't.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think that there's a need for tort reform in this country? In other words, even the simple thing as to say, if you bring a lawsuit and you lose, you have to pay the defendant's legal fees.
That's a debate that's been going on at least since I was in law school.
Okay.
I mean, it was talked about then. The different versions of that reform have been put forward. People talk about European systems. You know, how are things paid for? I don't want to get in trouble with the rest of the profession, but you know, one of the biggest knots to untie are the class actions, where the contingency fees, which, you know, in an individual case, some people find shocking, is it 35%, 40%, sometimes more of the settlement or a recovery. But class actions that have theoretically tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. I mean, you see them on the late night commercials, the mesothelioma or the personal injury torts, where the law firm is making huge amounts of money as a firm, and any individual plaintiff, if they can read the document that they're required to file and sign, you know, may get, you know, 18 cents or $40.
But that's always the joke, because, you know, I think people that are listening to our show here, we've all received those settlement statements for a credit card, or if you had a bank account at a bank during these years, and you see that there's like some $75 million settlement, and it's like 99% of it has gone to the attorneys for their fees and the court costs and all of those things, and that, you know, if you're eligible something, you get like $5.25.
Yeah.
You know,
now, every once in a while you see a court bat back at some of that and say, I'm just not going to award you. I don't care what you know, I just don't see the value in, you know, the recovery that you've achieved, that you should get, you know, as the multi-millions of dollars that you're asking for. But the system still, you know, permits at least the attempt to get that. And to me, throughout my career, that's been one of the biggest. Just there ought to be another way of handling it. When class actions came in earlier in the 20th century, you know, they were like a lot of things that were innovations. They see, oh, this is going to really help individuals. Well, it has helped a lot of individual lawyers.
But initially, it was really gathering up a whole group of victims and making it one case, as opposed to having hundreds of individual cases. So in a sense, it helped the court system by consolidating.
It was created by the court system, and it did help it, and it did have that attraction that, yeah, you didn't need 500,000 lawsuits. You could kind of put these all together.
Yeah.
But then the incentives become distorted, depending on who's going to profit from this and how they're going to profit from it, and how they get the defendant company maneuvered into a position where is either going to risk a trial, and be told that its product is poisoning people, and maybe you want to escape that, so you're going to pay a lot of money, but then you see that in paying it, you're you're paying a law firm.
Yeah, you're not really helping the victims. It's interesting because it's sort of like a lot of these firms will take things on contingency, but it's contingency plus costs, and that's that's really the thing that people need to look at, because you could have $1 million settlement and you wind up getting $100,000.
Ethically, the lawyer cannot fund costs. Those are supposed to be paid by the client.
Yeah.
Now, it can be a question, when does the client pay the costs? But yes, things that count as costs in the course of a lawsuit can add up to,
substantial money. Yeah.
So, that's just kind of a built-in feature of the legal life.
We kind of went off on a little tangent there again, which I always like to do. But I'm curious, are there any other cases that come to mind for you that sort of stand out as this is absolute silliness? Why would this person even think they were going to do anything here?
Well, they're probably, I know there are more of them. It's hard to recall them with specificity.
Yeah.
A lot of them sort of blend into each.
Were there a lot of slip and falls at the properties?
Well, what you would call slip and falls. The question is, was it a slip? Probably pretty clearly was a fall, but was it a slip, which is the way the defendant would say what happened? You slipped, you.
As opposed to them actually tripping, and it was sort of, they weren't watching where they were going.
There were claims like, well, there's too much water on the floor in one of the restrooms. And I wasn't looking, and I didn't see that. And I slipped and fell. All right. And then it becomes a question of, was there water there in the first place?
Yeah.
Were you looking? Was it illuminated? Was it our fault there was water? Could we have known there was water? Maybe it was your water. Maybe you were washing
Maybe
your
you
hands.
made water. You went into the restroom and made water.
Yeah, and that kind of thing happened all the time. There are scores of what you'd loosely put under the heading of slips and falls. People opening a door in the wrong direction, people's attention, they're walking down Main Street and they fall off a curb because they're not paying attention to, and the claim would be the curb's too high, the curb's too low, there were no curb cuts, there were, and you could argue about that all day.
That kind of reminds me, when you were talking about when they passed the ADA Act, the Americans Disability Act, and Disney went through and did stuff, that also kind of set off a little cottage industry of attorneys who were sort of out looking for compliance complaints to file. The one that comes to mind is like Clint Eastwood's restaurant up in Carmel, where he ultimately won the case, but somebody was suing him because there wasn't handicapped access in the front of the restaurant. He had a ramp around the side.
We had plenty of those. There were people who would come around, with tape measures and cameras and, say, well, you're a quarter inch off here, and that's a violation. Or in your disability assigned parking lanes, you had to have the lanes in certain places, but there had to be a certain width. And people would come and say, you're off. There's 1/8 of an inch, and that's a violation, and I'm entitled to take you to court for this. And you have to go out and correct what you thought had been, what in good faith had been constructed properly in the first place. Those weren't particularly humorous claims, but there were a lot of them.
Yeah. But that, again, I think I want our listeners to understand that there's a cost of doing business. And when you have thousands of these kinds of claims over the years, some of them may be viewed as being frivolous. They still have to be defended.
Yes.
And you're still spending money to do
Yes.
that, and that's becoming the cost of doing business. That goes to the cost of doing business, which ultimately is going to partially dictate the price of admission to the parks.
Yes, we had some long-running cases involving accommodations for the blind, and a particular individual and a group behind them, was finding all kinds of things to test where we didn't think we were wrong. We think we were accommodating properly. And
Yeah.
it was a long, drawn-out case with lots of motions, and until we finally set the thing right. It went over a period of years. So something you said triggered a recollection about a case that I think we talked about in our first session here, which I think has some appeal to animators. Remember, I talked about a case in which Disney was the plaintiff. Case I inherited when I came to the company against Filmation.
Yes, the Filmation cases, yeah.
And as I said, Filmation had done a series of one-sheets to announce this slate of pictures that it was going to have.
Sequels to
They
literary properties that Disney had done films for.
certainly could be viewed that way, which is the way we framed it in the lawsuit. And on whatever their Jungle Book sequel or ripoff, or however you want to characterize it was, there was a big bear. And we had a motion in court. This was in federal court in Los Angeles, and a very good judge, generally a woman who's a very smart judge. But we had this motion in which I'm sure it was one of the things I took early on to Roy Disney to say, do you have a problem if we approach this thing this way? We gave the judge an array of bears. Well, here's Baloo the bear, which is our Jungle Book bear, but here's Bongo the bear, and here's Brer Bear, and here's, what was the name of the bear in the Donald Duck cartoons?
Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. It'll come to me. I'm sure there's people shouting at their podcast right now. It'll come to me.
And there's Barney the bear that I think MGM had. I think it was a Hanna-Barbera when they were at MGM. So we had this array of bears, and saying, Your Honor, there's more than one way to animate a bear or to create an animated bear character. And isn't it interesting that this Filmation one-sheet bear looks more like Baloo in Jungle Book than it does any of these other bears. In fact, it looks exactly like Baloo. And the federal judge said, well, I got to tell you, to me, a bear is a bear is a bear.
Humphrey the bear.
And
Humphrey
they all
the
look,
bear.
thank you, it is
Humphrey the bear, yes.
A bear is a bear is a bear. They all look alike to me. Well, what do you do? Well, Your Honor, what are you, nuts? I mean, they don't look anything like each other. The whole point of this is that there are very distinctive attributes.
Yeah.
And there's a reason the characters are drawn the way they are to fit the movie. And these people are managing to draw a bear in a movie that is meant to tag along behind the Jungle Book. There's something wrong here. And yet you couldn't get the judge off of that. She just, all look alike to me. So no harm, no foul on that motion.
Wow.
Doesn't mean we didn't succeed ultimately, but
well, ultimately you did. Yeah. I mean, the company did succeed, but yeah. So
well, among other things, there were only two. There were only two of the Filmation group that were ever made.
The Snow White and the Pinocchio.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw neither one of them. They were that bad.
The Snow White picture was originally called Snow White and the Seven Dwarf Elves, and on release it was called Happily Ever After.
Well,
I just leave that thought with you as to, well, now where did that come from?
Wow, that's interesting.
Sell that picture.
I just find all of this absolutely fascinating to me because it makes you wonder, like, why people can believe things that clearly are out of left field to most others, and the woman, believing that the chopped liver swan was, they stole her idea for the top of the Swan Hotel. I mean, that's beyond me. And by the way, I'm curious, what the attorney didn't take that on contingency, did he?
I didn't ask.
I hope not. I hope not.
Well, he didn't get anything.
I know, that's what I'm saying,
But he had the good grace to come up and say, in effect, I wish we were doing this.
You did bring up Roy E. Disney a few times. You really had a lot of interactions with him over the years because he had to be, he was used as a witness for certain cases.
Oh, yeah.
Like that, right?
Roy was a wonderful communicator to the juries because it was so effortless and personal. And, the more you do this, the more you get comfortable with each other. And we had a rapport for his, the way in which he would bring his personal knowledge as well as the technical side of what he did. And we had enough to do with each other. That it was for reasons I never really understood. He was so gracious to me in bringing me into the process. He had me come with him to screening of a rough cut of a picture that we both know something about. He said, I want your notes on this. I want to show you how we do this. I want to show you how we acquire a piece of, I'm going to give you some money. I want you to go out and get, you can buy this film and maybe we're going to do something on the Disney Channel with it. And well, I think you know about this. As we got into Destino, I don't think you were there on this particular day, but Roy had me in a room with Kevin Breen, who was, a wonderful music business lawyer.
Yep.
And
I remember Kevin.
And John Hench.
Yep.
And Roy himself.
Yeah.
And a pile of Dolly's animation drawings.
The story sketches.
For Destino.
Yeah.
And the assignment was, this was the first time, since Dolly did not do a good job about the order in which these things were kept and the order of presentation. And as you know, John Hench himself had done, intermediate sketches in the style of Dolly. So this was the first time, as I understood it, in attempting to, in effect, board what became the final Destino.
Yes.
In other words, you had all the raw product. Now, how does this all come together and fit against the music? And, it's the kind of thing, you go home from work that day and say, I can't believe what I just was involved in. Sitting with John Hench.
Yeah. It was
sorting
amazing.
out Salvador Dali's artwork.
Well,
Roy Disney in charge of the room. Just an incredible experience.
And just so our listeners know, John Hench was assigned to work with Salvador Dali by Walt. Walt asked John to work with Salvador Dali because John could speak French.
Yes.
And Dali was a bit challenged with English. So they were able to communicate very well. And just the fact that John Hench was still at the company for 46 years later, to be in a conference room with you and have the stack of story sketches to start to go through. I mean, that's just absolutely amazing. You wouldn't find that at most companies.
No, I mean, the facts are always that incredible. The history you could dig into at Disney and the people who were there who lived it and knew it. And yes, there's John. But on top of it, for me, what does Roy see that I want you to do this too, you know? So going back to your point about, having things to do with Roy, we had a relationship where he would call on me for things that would seem fairly far afield with, what my official assignment was.
Yeah.
But we were always very comfortable
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah. He was a genuinely nice man. He really was. Considering his last name and the wealth associated with it, he was very grounded.
Yeah.
And he treated all of us just as equals, really.
There was there was never any show or pretense.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was,
And that's why he was so effective in a legal matter. And I don't know that he particularly, he didn't have an affinity. He didn't want to be involved in legal matters necessarily.
but he knew the importance of it, and he knew his place, his role in some of those cases.
He was happy to help, and I was happy to help him. And it just went on right to the end.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, we're coming up to the end, and this has just been an absolutely wonderful conversation with you, Ed. I know we probably set off alarm bells at the headquarters, but I'm sure right now, as we're ending this interview, there's a lot of people going, phew, we dodged a bullet there.
Nothing that shouldn't be spoken of. Although, in talking about all of these people that I got to work with, I didn't mention Bossert.
Oh, that character.
And, realizing how long it was back in the Fantasia 2000
Well,
days.
I think you and I have known each other for a good 30 years, probably.
Yeah, so, that was one of the treats of my my tenure there.
Well, and for me too, and as I've said to you before, I never really viewed you as a lawyer. I mean, I don't mean that in any derogatory way or anything. I just always have viewed you as an artist, because the fact that you had a piano in your office, the fact that I remember vividly walking into the studio theater across from the animation building and seeing you down in front of the screen in the front of the theater playing the piano at Annette Funicello's memorial service. For me, I've had more of an affinity to you as an artist, than you as a lawyer. Even though you were very helpful over the years when I was at the studio with things with Destino and other stuff, and we've always had a lot of great chats about things.
Well, I only wish you had been there. If you're going to be that complimentary about that side of what I did, I only wish you had been there the night that I did my performance at the El Capitan on the Wurlitzer.
I mean, honestly, I want you to tell that story right now, because I know that we had Ed, help me with Ed, who's Ed's last name?
Vodica.
Ed Vodica, thank you. I was searching for that in my dusty skull. Ed Vodica, who plays the Wurlitzer at the El Capitan, but set this one up, because I think our listeners would really enjoy this.
He was Ed was my coach on this. The legal department used to have a retreat, every couple of years. And I forget what year it was. It was early in the aughts. And it was at the Biltmore in downtown Los Angeles. Unusual place for a worldwide legal retreat to be held. And there were probably 400 or 500 lawyers attending to this thing. And one of the there were treats in the evening after a day's work. And the treat one evening was a first viewing of Enchanted. So the entire collection from the department was to go to the El Cap and see Enchanted. Somebody had the bright idea, or what they thought was the bright idea, saying, well, Ed, didn't you used to play organ? I said, yeah, I did. That's part of my background. What if you disguised yourself as the regular organist and before the picture, just like paying customers at the El Cap, they'd see, the organ come up out of the stage and hear, a 20-minute medley of Disney music. And then you'd be revealed as, who you really were, because you'd have your back to the audience. So I said, oh my God, it's been, I don't know, 30 years since I've actually played the organ. So during the retreat, I'd get up at, I don't know, 6 in the morning and drive from the Biltmore to the El Cap, and they let me in early. And I'd spend like, an hour and a half getting used to riding the bicycle again. You had to get the feet coordinated with the foot pedals, and it's a 5 manual organ, which is, more, they're keys, but you had the key, you had to shift around and you had to play.
There was buttons and things to pull and all that, right?
So I had the help of Ed to, okay, let's do it this way, let's do it that way. All right, you're getting better. So it's all coming back to me. Then you had to practice riding the elevator, the organ up in the elevator, because you're playing while you're going up and you're playing while you're going down. So comes the evening, and start with "Hooray for Hollywood," come up out of the stage.
Now, we do have to tell everybody you are bald.
This is
and
true.
You were wearing a wig.
A wig, yes. So I mean, I am thoroughly disguised. I'm wearing the same red jacket that the organists were wearing back then, and everybody's in their seats. So they're just, okay, this is what you get at the El Cap, and the guy's playing the music. And then it's coming to a close, and the curtain opens, and there's the big Walt Disney Studios logo on the screen, and Dick Cook, who was then Dick was in on this from the beginning. It was when Dick was in fact, now that I'm thinking about it, Dick was the guy who said, we absolutely have to do this.
I could certainly picture him doing that too.
So he walks out, and, Dick was a great host on stage.
Yeah. Oh, he was a showman.
And so he starts this encomium saying, well, you're all welcome tonight. We're going to see the movies. But I got to tell you, everything at Disney is first rate. And you have just heard, 20 minutes of Disney music by, the first class organist here at the El Cap. We only do things first class. So I want to introduce you to the El Cap organist. And he says, Ed Nowak. And I spun around on the bench, and people are kind of, what?
It must have brought the house down. There must have been howls.
It was. So I get up, and Dick and I give a big hug to each other, and I make a couple of jokes with him, and he says, okay, that's enough. Now you go back down. So I got on, and I, played myself off down underneath, and Dick,
that's fantastic.
It,
that to me is a wonderful story to end our conversation with.
Well, I'm just sorry you weren't there that night, but
I wish I was there for that. I've been to a lot of things, but I would never have been invited to an attorney retreat. I wouldn't have been I would have been found out as a fraudster right off the bat because I wasn't wearing a tie.
We would have had to sue you.
Well, Ed, I got to tell you, this was absolutely a fantastic 4 episodes with you. And when we first talked about you coming on the show, you didn't think you were going to have a lot to talk about. And here we are. We're 4 episodes.
Well, I can't overstate how gratified I am that you even thought that this would be enough in the groove of the podcast.
It absolutely is. And I think if you look back at our archives, we have a lot of different people in, and it's all of those people, their specialties, their roles that help make the company the way it is. Whether you're talking about a director on a film or a film composer or the attorney who's beating people back at the gate, who are trying to file lawsuits and accuse the company of things. I think all of those people play into these magnificent films and attractions and parks that are built and consumer products, everything the company does, all of the so-called magic is all of those people behind the scenes. I firmly believe that.
Well, I do too. I mean, I felt it, and that was the ethos. It was a very different way of working as a lawyer than any place else I could imagine.
Sure. Well, this has been fantastic. As I say to every guest, I look forward to talking to you again in the future on the Skull Rock podcast.
I may remember something else too.
I know you will. We're gonna be having lunch. You go say, I remember this story. I'm gonna say, Ed, we got to have you back.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you soon. Thank you so much, Ed.
Thank you, David.
Bye-bye.
Let's get out of here!
Come on, Scotty, let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here. Let's get out of here, Lieutenant.
All right, Dave, yet another awesome interview. And that wraps up part 4 with Ed. What a great time you guys both had.
Really, it was wonderful talking to him. I have to say, I always enjoy having conversations that go into some deep topics. And I think that it was great to explore what goes on behind the scenes at the Walt Disney Company, especially with some of the craziness that happens, because the company is so big, it has a big target on its back, and it attracts a lot of nutty people, and so therefore you have to have a great group of people like Ed and others who are there dealing with some of this stuff,
I love it. I mean, the bigger the fandom, the bigger the company, the bigger the people come out of the woodwork to try to capture some of that, and the nutbags, Dave.
Yeah. And the sad thing is with a lot of big companies is that they'll just pay out some amount of money just to get rid of it,
Yeah.
and I wish all these companies would actually just squash these people. Don't give them a nickel, make them pay the company's legal bills because of their frivolous lawsuits, and just put the word out there that we're not going to give you anything if you have an illegitimate, fraudulent claim,
Yeah. People look at it as an easy payday, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Because it is going to reflect on, prices every little bit. It's like stealing from the store,
No, it's like when people do that, it's the fans that are paying the price because the ticket prices have to go up because of these types of things.
Exactly right.
So
you got to pay for the shrinkage and other things. This is true. Well, very eye-opening series, and I challenge you, if you just found this podcast, go back in and check out the shows in the vault. There's a tremendous amount that you can get from these shows. And, we get back to it next week, Dave, with just another great episode, Dave. But hey, this wraps up our episode for this week. So thank you so much for listening, gang. We do appreciate it. If you love Disney and pop culture, please subscribe to the show on your favorite platform, as well as you can hopefully see some video of us there on YouTube as well as Spotify podcasts. So check that out. What, Dave? Are you
I'm just laughing, you're going to see our mugs, on YouTube.
Well, yeah, you're going to see our mugs on YouTube.
Yeah.
That's how the algorithm works, but it's worked really well, Dave, because we have great scathing comments from listeners.
We love it, and I have to say we have faces for radio.
Sure, why not? What the hell not? Follow us on all our socials too: Facebook, X, LinkedIn, Instagram. It's all there. You can also send us those emails, Dave or Aljon at skullrockpodcast.com. You can follow me on Instagram. Like I said, that's the best place to follow me, Instagram.com/Aljon Rocks. Aljon Go. You can also follow me on X, and we can also have fun on this other podcast I host. It's called Dining at Disney. It's released once a week. We talk about Disney parks and food. It's so much fun. Looking forward to my next visit here in the spring after animation, y'all. I'm heading back to the parks, Dave. It's going to be a lot of fun with the kiddos, and we can't wait to ride Tron. That'll be the first time. Hopefully the kids will be able to ride Tron too, now that they're getting of age.
Awesome.
I can't wait for that. And then also check out Sorcerer Radio, all Disney music all day long at srsounds.com, as they are a proud promoter of this podcast. Dave.
Well, Aljon, as you mentioned, we're going to be at the Animation Y'all Expo in Nashville, April 10th to the 12th. That's right, folks. You can go. I think, Aljon, you're going to have a link in the show notes for people to get tickets. But the Animation Y'all Expo in Nashville, April 10th to 12th. We'll be there. We're looking forward to meeting listeners again like we did last year. This will be the second year of the Expo. And I got to tell you, folks, last year, the Expo was sold out. It was a huge success out of the gate, and it's going to be bigger this year for the second event. So Animation Y'all Expo Nashville, April 10th to 12th. Also, you can hear me on my Tunes Behind the Tunes show on the SiriusXM Disney Hits Channel 133. All during February, we're featuring the song Try Everything from Disney's animated hit film Zootopia. The first one, Zootopia. So Try Everything. And that's sung by Shakira. So check that out. Also, you can get signed copies of my books at theoldmillpress.com. And the Old Mill Press just released The Art of John Canemaker, An Animator's Garden by John Canemaker, which is a beautiful book. And also, A Spoonful of Sugar, the story of the Upjohn Pharmacy in Disneyland by Stephen Hall. Check out both of those books. They're fantastic. You can get signed copies at theoldmillpress.com. And you can always go to davidbossert.com. There's plenty of free content. There's articles. There's stuff you can send away for free stuff. So check that out at davidbossert.com. And with that, Aljon, I'm going to say stay warm, people. There's like 140 million people under this Arctic vortex, this frigid blast. Stay warm this week, people. And if you have to go out, be careful. I've been seeing cars sliding all over the roads on the news. It's just absolutely crazy. But go out, have a fantastic week, people. And we will see you back here next week, right here on the Skull Rock Podcast.